All right, well, good evening. I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich, and we're going to get ready to kick off here. This is Carbon Matters live streaming. I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening, 17 March 2022. We're going to have a great 1-hour conversation discussion opportunity to talk to the issues most noteworthy and related to the Board of Commissioners activities we're seeing taking place, not only in the county, but also across our municipalities. And as you join us this evening, I want to remind you, I can always be reached, with the exception of 5:30 to 7:30 on evenings, at 570-503-6780. That's 570-503-6780. Hi, Bruce. Good to see you joining in. So for about the next hour, we're going to be talking about carbon matters. Kind of go here in a couple different directions to get us started. But I think it's most important to mention first and foremost, happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. My surname, paternal surname, obviously, Lukasevich, not very Irish, but my mother is a McLaughlin from Summit Hill on her father's side, and a Geiger from Lehighton on her mother's side. So the McLaughlin side is the Irish side of my family. Our daughter, Molly, plays tribute to our Irish ancestry. So again, to everyone, Irish and non-Irish, happy St. Paddy's Day. I think it's really important to mention the incredible basketball game that was played last night by the Lady Olympians. Just an incredible 40-39 victory. They sealed it with what, 2.7 seconds remaining. The first time they led in the game, but it's the only time where it's really important if you're leading, right? And that's at the end of the game. Hi, Kathy. Thank you for tuning in. Again, just talking about Lady Olympians and that incredible game last night. They were behind for all 4 quarters up until the 2.7 second mark. And then they sealed it. So congratulations. They'll be moving to the semifinals, which will be Saturday. So best of luck to the Lady Olympians. Hi, Carrie. Hope you guys are doing well up there. Right here, I'm probably sitting about 400 yards from where the Lady Olympians practice there at the high school. So again, thrilled for them, the coach, the school, the community, both Jim Thorpe and Jim Thorpe writ large, which really extends throughout Carbon County. So let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start, like always, pretty soft, pretty easy, light news that is taking place. I'll also try to bring in towards the end some other noteworthy items that weren't necessarily in the news or just emerging that we should see probably making news in the next couple months as it relates to the county. I want to really first and foremost, and this just popped up, I believe, yesterday, for the Times News published an article on a collaborative effort between our GIS department director, Jason Shellhammer, Justin Markle, and Gary Williams up at our 911 center. And that's the launch of the 911 data hub. And it's really to provide on the open public net information to where emergencies are happening in Carbon County to the public. And if you go to Carbon County website, carboncounty.com, you'll see a link to the GIS portal. And through there also you can find the 911 data hub. I know on a regular basis, they're going to be highlighting a dispatcher, I am 911, dispatcher spotlight. So we'll get to meet and greet really get to know the 911 dispatchers. I know that Kara Edmonds from the Dimmick Memorial Library, I believe, previously did a Dimmick Presents up at the 911 center. And that's probably something we in the county need to do. Go up and do a live streaming and have Gary talk us through the duties and responsibilities of a dispatcher, and then watch some of those activities play out. So again, if you're just joining me, this is Carbon Matters live streaming. I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. We're just getting started. Wished everyone a happy St. Patty's Day. Congratulated the Lady Olympians. And now just talking about some of the soft subjects that popped up. And the first one being the collaboration on the 911 data hub, which is it's better engagement with the general public. Understand what is going on in the realm of emergency services in Carbon County. I think it would be great. Gary Williams, the director of the 911 center, the comm center, really puts together an excellent end-of-year roll-up of what they had been doing and what the 911 dispatchers have been seeing in the way of activities. It would be great, I think, to build upon the 911 data hub and create what I call like a virtual storyboard using all that data. Where are the issues? Where are the emergencies? Where are the problems? The dispatches occurring. It's great, one, to look back and then do some trend analysis also. And I really think Justin and Jason could do a great collaboration. And again, bring Gary's 1 year review, the annual review, to life using the GIS system, Esri, and doing that on the 911 data hub. Recently, we did have in the Board of Commissioners, the SHARE program was highlighted once again. You might remember that from about a year or so ago, maybe a year and a half, when the Board of Commissioners first highlighted the SHARE program. That's Shared Housing and Resource Exchange, known as SHARE. And primarily what it does, it brings a senior citizen who might need housing together with someone who wants to offer them housing. And they come up with an agreement in which that senior is housed, continues to be in the community with someone who is opening their home to them. And they come up with, it could be a financial agreement, it could be an agreement for services, but nonetheless, the SHARE serves as the connective tissue between a senior needing a place to live and someone who might be offering up, has a room, wants to share costs. So a great program. Area Agency on Aging is really the point of contact, the focal point for the SHARE program. Interesting that it does cap. If I perhaps wanted to host a senior in my home and allow them to live in a spare bedroom, the max you're able to charge is 30% of the home seeker's monthly income. So again, if you have any questions on the SHARE program, you know a senior who might be looking for a roommate or vice versa, call the Area Agency on Aging. So again, if you're just joining me, I'm Carbon County Chris Lukasevich. This is Carbon Matters live streaming. Maggie has another night off from her normal role sitting here beside me. I can see her right here. She's kind of doing some work maybe, or just relaxing after a day of artwork. But again, miss her, but she is just close by. I can look right at her as I'm sitting here. Well, today we had 4-H. Recognized 4-H week, had about a half a dozen girls from 4-H. The new 4-H educator who works out of the Penn State, what we call the extension, out there at Mock Chunk Lake Park, right there by the breast of the dam, the Penn State extension, their new educator. But we also had, the week prior, we recognized the Girl Scouts anniversary in Carbon County. So it was great to see. 5 of those young ladies come and talk to the commissioners and the public via the live streaming and the media that was present about what they had gained through Girl Scouts and what they were able to provide back to the community. So I want to thank them for giving us their thoughts, their ideas of the community and how they could bring value at it while self-developing themselves as good citizens. And here's just a quick snapshot there of the picture that was taken by the Times News. So I'd like to recognize the Girl Scouts celebrating their anniversary, which they were actually founded in Savannah, Georgia. And that was my first military assignment, permanent duty assignment down at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia. Interesting enough, it's probably the second or third largest St. Patty's Day parade and celebration in the country is in Savannah, Georgia. It would be, wow, about 39 years ago today that I was marching in my first St. Patty's Day parade. Actually, yeah, 41 years, actually, not 39. And that was with the 1st Ranger Battalion. So, Carbon Shelter Committee, right? The Carbon County Animal Shelter Advisory Board had its first meeting last month. It'll be meeting again on 2 April down at 44 Susquehanna Street, the renovated new building down there on Susquehanna Street, across from Woods Ice Cream, beside Mist. We expect to be live streaming that advisory board meeting. So in their first meeting, it was primarily about organizing themselves, choosing and voting for a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. It is a 5-member board. It seems like a great group of individuals with a very, I call it an eclectic mix of skills and background and experience, from business to animal behavior to veterinary medicine. And the hopes is bringing these 5 individuals together, they can help develop the policies, procedures to take our animal shelter to the next level, and supporting Tom up there with the great work that he and his staff, small as it is, do. Very important. So again, it's keep your eye out for the Carbon County Animal Shelter Advisory Board. 24 hours prior to each meeting, of course, they are posting their agendas, get a sense of what's going to be taking place at those meetings. Public is invited, but again, we would expect it to be, as long as we don't have any technical difficulties, we could expect it to be live streamed also. So if you're just tuning in, it's interesting, on my main computer, I'm only seeing a couple people, but now that I looked at my iPad, which is just off here to my left, now I'm seeing Tawny, Kathy, Nancy, Dawn, Donnie, Albert, Ian. So all those folks, and I can see who's watching now live. I get the numbers and stuff like that, but those who are just individually tuning in, tuning out. Oh, Carbon County relaxes the mask policy. Yeah, that was tough, even for about a month or 5 weeks that we were back wearing masks. Again, I was fully vaccinated. I think probably most employees really were. I still don't believe there's any proof that the masks, unless you're wearing an N95, did any good whatsoever. Provided maybe some psychological comfort to folks. Hi, Dennis. Thanks for tuning in. Might have provided some psychological comfort for some, but again, I'm not one who believes the mask, non-N95 or higher quality, was really effective in slowing down or preventing the spread of COVID-19. But there are no longer COVID restrictions in the county building, no mask requirements. So let's try and get that behind us. I suspect there'll be residual cases for a long time, but it's nice to not have to put a mask on. I do know that the hospitals are still requiring them. Was down at LVHN in Whitehall yesterday with my daughter, and again, they're still required. So if you're just joining me, it's Carbon Matters live streaming. I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I want to thank you for tuning in this evening. Always want to give every once in a while here this evening, for those who are just tuning in, another shout out to the Lady Olympians for their victory last night. Oh, about the 24th of February, we're going back a little bit, but the Board of Commissioners and the Carbon County Sheriff's Association did reach an agreement. And this really covers 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants, 11 deputies. 1-year agreement. And the reason you'll see the agreements we're reaching with the unions, 3 of them which came due for renewal this year, why we're going with 1 year or trying to get 1-year agreements is because we're currently conducting a salary study. It's called a salary study. I think it's a misnomer because really it looks at the duties, the responsibilities, the duty descriptions of each position in the county, reconciles with what we have on paper with what an individual really does, mesh them together, go out and get data in regards to salaries that match up with those, duties and responsibilities, and create new recommended pay scales for the employees in Carbon County. So again, I think all 3 of the unions that we're negotiating with or, have been recently reaching agreement with, again, are kind of hedging their bet that this is going to be positive for them to negotiate. So I think it was a pretty easy decision to make the 1-year agreement versus a longer term one, because we do have Teamsters, we have 2 ASME bargaining units, we have the sheriffs, and then we have what's called the sergeant's MOA up at the prison. So for all intent and purposes, 5. There's actually 4 union contracts. The sergeant's MOA follows the Teamster agreement, which is for the corrections officers. Really, the election is just around the corner. We continue to have frustrations with Department of State, the judiciary, even making quick decisions in regards to the new lines for the districts. We just saw with the state of Pennsylvania, House and Senate, new boundaries or districts were approved by the courts. But again, there is another court case that is still pending in regard to Act 77. And the specific issue there continues to be the mail-in ballots. Is it constitutional? And not absentee ballots. It's, kind of no excuse mail-in ballots. Interesting. The Carbon County Comprehensive Plan talks extensively about protecting our natural environment. I've been a very vocal opponent of wind turbines in Carbon County. I do believe it destroys the viewscape, the natural beauty of the area, which brings many former residents back, brings in new blood, and of course brings in the tourism into Carbon County, which we benefit greatly from. But I see Kidder Township Board of Supervisor is weighing solar farm zoning and looking at Cypress Creek, which is, I guess, part in parcel, Cypress Creek Renewables has proposed a 500-acre solar farm, but the total acreage they need is 900 acres for things like retention ponds and stuff like that. I am just not for or supportive of destroying 500 to 900 acres of trees to put up a solar farm. Now, somewhere in that is already deforested, absence of trees, let's say over the old zinc site in Palmerton, no problem there. Maybe up in some of the old strip mine areas that may never be reclaimed, fine. But taking down 900 acres of trees or potentially doing that for solar, nah, I just can't support that at all. I think it's contrary to our best interests, So nope, Chris says no for solar farms. I will tell you, I had tried for almost 3 years, and up until about 6 months ago, the cutoff was actually in December, to try to see the viability of Packard and Yards, the residual remaining part of that the county owns, to see if it would be suitable for solar. While the position, the location, where it's geographically located, the amount of terrain that was available, every company who I had pretty in-depth conversations with agree it would be doable. The problem we ran into with every single one of them, it's a special flood hazard area. Even though there hasn't been the great freshet or a flood, right? Back in the day, I guess they called them freshets, since like 1846, when you had a terrible flood down there and destroyed a couple of the communities along the river. Because it's a special flood hazard area, they will not build on it. And I say, well, can't you put them on stilts that you see often, right? And matter of fact, out west, they have parking lots where you actually park under the solar panels. They're raised right up. But what they say is they run a lot of the cabling and systems for it underground. And again, they don't want to risk. And I suspect at the end of the day, it comes down to insurance liability. So my aspiration to convert Packard and Yard, if for nothing else, into a solar park just isn't going to be realized. Talking about a park, let's talk about parking. County parking lot, right? New administrator there, Scott Pompa, and his employees are actually doing a great job. I think in the last year or so, we've seen a significant change in the operations of that parking lot. Obviously, we're about 14 months into the new kiosk system. We have a new director. We have a couple new employees who came in and really doing a stellar job and providing a great service to residents when they come in during the week, and of course, tourists. For the first year of kiosk operations, which started in January 21 of last year through to this year, over $1 million of revenue, and the projected was about $650,000. So we're continuing to generate pretty good bucks when it comes to parking revenue. Now that money is set aside. It's used for maintaining Josiah White Park, the railroad station, the parking lot, the main parking lot, and all county parking lots to include up at the prison, EMA, Mock Chunk Lake Park. Significant, I think it's about $150,000 a year of the parking fund, if I recall correctly, is actually moved over to Mock Chunk Lake Park to support their operations. So it is a great revenue resource. Yeah, I agree, Carrie, not worth killing, not even one tree for that solar panel, right? Oh, PennDOT officials discussed plans for Route 40, Route 940, detours and bridge tolling. So up there in proximity to Whitehaven, got a bridge over the Lehigh River. They're going to divert traffic down in around Eastside Borough because the fact is that bridge tolling is going to occur. I just saw a representative, I can't recall which one, not one of our local ones, so it wasn't Knowles or Heffley, was raising great concern because the concessionaire or the contractor who's going to run and manage the bridge tolling is not even a U.S. company, right? It's not from Pennsylvania, not from the United States. It's a foreign company. I didn't read the totality of the concerns, but that's concerning enough. Shouldn't we have, if we're going to be told by a private company, shouldn't it be supporting Pennsylvania jobs? Shouldn't it be supporting U.S. jobs? Should it be supporting foreign jobs? And not so much foreign jobs, but it's where that money, that profit goes, right? It doesn't stay in the United States. So keep your eye out. I know, locals, of course, will find bypasses if we need to. But all those truckers and stuff just add into the cost of products and goods, right, with that tolling. No question, though, hey, you got to maintain the roads. Okay, if you're just joining me, it's Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz, Carbon Matters live streaming, reviewing some of the most notable items that made the news and others that had not in regards to what's occurring in Carbon County. I'm available about 22 hours a day, 570-503-6780. You can call me down at the county at 325-3611. So that's a 570 area code. For you older folks, no longer 717, right? 570-325-3611 down in the county, or C. Lukasiewicz at carboncounty.net. Up at the prison, right? We're finishing up a roof replacement there. They're in doing what's called the sunlight. I believe they're in there this week doing that. That should finish up almost $1 million revitalization of the roof. We're looking at a new food provider. Definitely needs to go to the next level. I would assess we weren't getting the quality of food that we were paying for. Now, again, this is not filet mignon and lobster meals by any means. We do have a responsibility to ensure a certain nutritional value, daily nutritional value is met, even for the prisoners. And it is my expectation that while we're unquestionably, we're going to end up paying more for a new contract just because of inflation. But I think we really needed to get back out there, as all the members of the prison board did. We were looking for this opportunity, and just so happens that our existing provider wanted to get out of the contract. I suspect they're probably losing money and want to renegotiate. Well, we weren't going to renegotiate, but they did have the right to leave the contract. So that's back out to bid. New service provider for the county. It was currently Trinity Services. All right. Oh, this is a personal one. Palmerton schedules kindergarten registration. No. Okay. Lukasiewicz to head Veterans Committee. So about a month. Oh my gosh. That was in March. February, I was asked by the National Association of Counties if I would be willing to assume the chair, the head of what's referred to as NACO, National Association of County, which represent about 2,800 of the counties in the US, so all but a few hundred, to lead up their Veterans and Military Services Committee. So in March at our legislative meeting in Washington, D.C., I assumed the helm, the leadership from outgoing Tom Snyder of Winnebago County, Wisconsin. Looking forward to the challenges associated with that. Our big push really, CVSO Act, and that is to get support for our CVSOs. Who are our CVSOs? That's our county veteran support officer. So Christine LeClaire, the director, Angelo, and then Bonnie in that office. And the CVSO, they're really, I refer to them now, the CVSO is the bridge between the service member, right, the veteran, and their family, and the earned benefits of that veteran. So be it education, home loans, medical services at the VA, burial items. These are all earned benefits that the CVSO helps facilitate, ensuring the veteran has access to. So VA, for example, disability. VA disability is another, obviously, a very important one also. So we're focusing on what's the CVSOs, and with that, the House just passed the Honor Our Pact Act, which really is about toxic exposure. If anyone ever has been in the military, we have something called burn pits, right? It could be burned sewage, but often in a military environment, in a combat environment, such as since 9/11 in Iraq and Afghanistan, there's tons of stuff, junk that has to be gotten rid of. And in a combat environment, majority of it really is burnt. Well, the toxins are in that stuff is being burnt, and unfortunately service members were exposed to it. So honoring our PACT Act is to provide funding for veterans who have problems related to these toxins. And part of that was the attachment was the CVSO Act, which we're supporting heavily in NACO Veterans and Military Services. And that's to provide additional funding to our county level veterans service officers so that they can connect, be the bridge between the veteran and family members and their earned benefits. So stay tuned for that. A lot of legislative work, really working at the federal level. The Honoring Our PACT Act, then the CVSO Act, that's actually now in the Senate. So we'll be focusing in Pennsylvania specifically on Senator Toomey, Senator Casey, but then those on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, and then the House and Senate Appropriations if it continues to move forward. Ooh, carbon links with with Lehigh Valley and new map. And that was the new congressional maps I was just talking about. The 9th congressional district, which we're currently in, and this is the US Congress, right? Representative Dan Muser. Based upon the census, Carbon County will be moving into the 7th district. That is currently a Susan Wild, Dan Muser, a Republican. Susan Wild is a Democrat down in the Lehigh Valley area. So we'll be joining Lehigh, Northampton, and 3 smaller counties, 3 smaller municipalities in Monroe County. Elwood, Ross, and one other that slips my mind. So again, we will see a contested election. Democrats, Republicans will choose their candidates for that seat in May. In November, the election to see who we will be represented in the new, let me call it, 7th congressional district. Interesting on the state level, Carbon County is actually in 2 districts, right? We have Summit Hill, which is represented by Jerry Knowles. And then you have Doyle Heffley that has the other 22 municipalities. But based upon the census and the redistricting, now the entirety of Carbon County will be under 1 district, which is currently represented by Doyle Heffley. So it's good to get the entire county together. It's kind of, for me, my thought was kind of Summit Hill is kind of the redheaded stepchild. I don't know, Jerry Knowles, I believe, is a great a representative for his area, but I don't know if Summit Hill got the attention it deserved. All right, so let's continue to move on there. Oh, I saw that UDCHAC is not running, right? Suspected that, he was a Democrat, was a 1.5 to 2 years ago. He switched to an independent. The redistricting would have thrown him out of the area. created a necessity for him to run as an independent. He decided that he's not going to run again. I suspect he'll go into, he might, I think one rumor was he might help run a governor campaign. And I can't recall that particular candidate, or of course, private industry. Hi, Bev, thanks for tuning in. Carbon Matters live streaming, doing it alone. Maggie's taking a break from her daily artwork and is just relaxing tonight. So I'm sitting here having a good conversation. Oh, let's see, and let's jump right into what's next. Oh, Carbon prepares for the elevator work. So starting on March 21st, all the way through the end of April, we should expect disruption in elevator service in the courthouse. However, actions have been taken to ensure full accessibility to the courthouse and all the offices and the courts during that time. So again, starting as early as the 21st, right, next week, all the way through the end of April. Kind of the most disruptive period is likely to be 4 to 8 March, when they're going to have to be doing some jackhammering down in the basement. So that could last from Monday all the way to Friday. The other part of that noise-wise is, in order to run that jackhammer, they have to have a large compressor, and that mobile compressor is going to be out there, the Sally Port, the area where the sheriff goes through. There's a gate on the side. You come in Hazard Square, you come around Hazard Square there, and you'll see a gate beside, a vehicular gate beside the courthouse. That's where the sheriff comes in. They're going to have to put that very loud compressor there, and that's going to reverberate up against the wall. So we're going to temporarily move the prothonotary office, which is right on that wall of the courthouse. We're going to move them over to where the old adult probation was. So basically, coming in the courthouse, you'd be making immediately left. Also, the Register of Wills off in Orphans Court is right above, more or less, where a lot of the work is going to take place during that jackhammering. So we're going to move them also into that same former space of adult probation. So from 4 to 8 March, you should expect Register of Wills, Orphans Court, and Prothonotary to temporarily be relocated to the old adult probation office. So when you come in the courthouse, you go through the screening, the deputy sheriff, special deputy sheriff, will direct you to the left. But again, all services will continue. We have taken measures to ensure if the noise is too loud for court or any other disruption associated with the elevator project, we have an agreement with Memorial Hall and Jim Thorpe to use that for jury selection in court if necessary. We have an agreement in place with Jim Thorpe Area School District for 410 Center Avenue. Remember the building we didn't buy? Now we're just continuing to rent it for flex space, right? Yeah, don't want to go there yet. We'll go there later, meaning in the next couple months as we get some numbers for the courthouse renovation. But nonetheless, so we're renting the first floor, the 410 Center Avenue building, to include the gymnasium in case we have to do court up there also. And we've taken the added measure of contracting also with the expected new owner of the building, Sargent Enterprises. So if between now and what we did, we contract all the way through mid-May in case there's an extension or need to extend the work time for the elevator replacement. We have an agreement in place with Sargent Enterprise, the expected new owner. Should they take ownership before 15 May, we already have an agreement with them. So it's not like we're going to get thrown out of the building whenever they do the closing on the school district office, right? So there it was. That was Carbon Approves Hall Rental. That's Memorial Hall. Thanks to Jim Thorpe Borough Council for supporting that. Now, some might say, well, you're getting ready to do a multi-million-dollar renovation of the courthouse in January 2023. Why didn't you just wait to do the elevator then and make it one big, large inconvenience? It's going to be a nightmare regardless, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Well, the reason was this was grant money. Hi, Shelby Johnson. Thanks for joining, Shelby. This is grant money, and the grant money had to be expended. I can't recall if it's by June. We have to have that money fully expended and paid out and closed. Therefore, we couldn't put it off till 2023. And in regards to that process of the renovation of the courthouse, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, right now, the lead, asbestos, mitigation analysis is taking place. We get that done. The MKSD and another firm are starting to put together really what is the tentative plan, get the bid documents out, which again, our prime is Boyle Construction, who does our project management. They'll get the bid documents out, and probably by September, we'll be going out to bid. And by January 2023, actually starting those renovations. Well, Carbon votes to buy building in Lehighton. Well, so far we do have an agreement to buy 525 Iron Street. We are working with architects and builders to see what has to be done to get that up to a suitable place for children and youth services. The fact is, children and youth services will be growing up to a total of 48 individuals. Our needs are far greater than children and youth services. We have planning and development that has no office, right? They never got back in the building where they're supposed to go to 44. They're still up in the school district office. Workforce, which is a multi-county workforce development. And they were supposed to come into 44 building. They didn't get in because we had to put children and youth in their spaces. We had to put the public defender in planning and development. Children and youth right now only has about 25, 30 folks. They're wall to wall, you know, boom, 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 back to back in there. We originally needed, if I recall, anywhere from 10 to 14,000 square feet up at the high school to accommodate children and youth. This building down on Iron Street isn't even 10,000. Right? And again, it's only going to serve one office, right? And then you have the Area Agency on Aging in Palmerton. It's out of space, right? It really, with the additional couple of people they need to bring on, and they don't have the space. They're not going to be able to stay in that building in Palmerton. Matter of fact, the police who are on the lower floors are having problems in that building. We do have another office down there. The magisterial court is down in that area also. But again, buying 525 Iron Street doesn't solve our space problem one bit. And I'll go more into that in a later edition. All right. We're going to save that till last. Let's talk in broadband. And thank you for joining me. We're about 3/4 into Carbon Matters live streaming. I'm Christopher Savage, Carbon County Commissioner. Happy St. Patty's Day to you. Congratulations once again to the Lady Olympians on their victory last night. Great to see that. All right. That's another one that has to do with broadband. Holy moly, broadband. Tamaka Library needs a new roof. What is that? Oh, we already talked about the I never actually got to the parks part, right? So I was talking about the revenue that comes in from the parking lot, and I apologize for that. I slipped that underneath something else when I started talking about it. So great staff down there. That building is really old. It doesn't meet the needs, heating, air conditioning, the need for potential technology in there, a computer to monitor some of the cameras that focus on our parking lots, provide additional security. So we're going to go ahead and replace that with a slightly larger booth. But this booth, currently where it's located, when you first come in the lot, you cross the railroad tracks, and there it is. It's actually going to be pushed back up against the guardrails where the D&L runs on the edge of the county lot. And as part of our railroad sale agreement, the Reading Northern Blue Mountain is actually going to create a new vehicular and pedestrian crossing there. And they're also looking at maybe putting a little bit of an island there also. Again, make it a much safer transition, easier flow in and out. Because what happens is, even though we use a kiosk system, vehicles always stop at that booth for guidance. Whereas we even have signs that say, you know, public parking, turn left. Right. But so we're going to put in that new booth. We're going to move it back. And then we're also going to get an all-weather LED digital sign that will be able to provide individuals coming to use the county lot guidance in regards to parking. And they'll be able, obviously, to be changed by computer and everything to help, again, reduce some of the congestion because of the challenge it presents to us as residents. So anything the county can do, invest some more funds to help ensure the flow of traffic is a little bit better, all right, in that area. So that booth is coming. All right, Mike, thanks for joining us. Bonnie, thank you also for tuning in. This is Carbon Matters live streaming. We're down to about the last 13 minutes this evening. And as everyone realizes, you know, what I do later in the night around 11:30, 12, I'll go ahead and go through all the comments. I will go ahead and respond to them at that time. Normally, if Maggie was here, she'd be kind of feeding me them and stuff like that. But again, tonight she's on R&R, so we're going to respect that, or I will, because she's doing all her artwork all day long. So I want to ensure she gets the break. All right, let's see. I wanted to jump right to broadband and really finish up with that. All right. So for the last couple of weeks or so, the county has been asking residents to go online, carboncounty.com, right? About 20,000 residents is in Carbon County received in the mail this survey. Here it is, but it's also available online. And while we probably received about 500 via mail, another 1,500 plus have been online. We're kind of, it says due by the 18th. It'll probably stay open throughout the weekend. I would encourage you, if you haven't already, please help us help you and complete the broadband survey. Collects general information, or I should say specific information about your broadband experience, your connectivity, your speed. There's actually a hyperlink on the survey, and of course on the online version for you to go ahead and test your download speed, your upload speed, and to provide that data also. Because the fact is, there is not great fidelity, right, kind of granularity of knowledge of where broadband isn't providing the level of service that is needed for teleeducation, telework, telemedicine, right? And that's what we want to ensure, that all citizens of Carbon County have accessibility to reliable, fast, consistent, all-weather broadband connectivity. So this will help provide, by completing the survey. Go to carboncounty.com. You can't miss it. It's pinned to the top. You'll see a couple hyperlinks. Helps gets us that detailed data we need. So the company Design9, who's been helping us, has literally done dozens upon dozens of these assessment for counties and municipalities all across the country. The Southeast COG, this what's called the CETA COG, they've just done for 7 counties, a really big study here in Pennsylvania. There are contracted a team. We're using grant money plus matching from the county and Carbon Chamber Economic Development Corporation to have this feasibility study conducted. Matter of fact, a copy of the feasibility study, the Rural Broadband Coverage and Feasibility Study, the scope of work, go to carboncounty.com, or right there at the front, pinned to the top. You can go through and get all the details of the study and how that's going to play out. An important part of that, though, of course, is the survey. We held Design 9, met with the COG, the Council of Governments. We just recently hosted a one-on-one discussion with Blue Ridge. Blue Ridge seems to be upset based on some general statements that were made by Design 9 about the internet service provider community in Pennsylvania and throughout the United States. As you realize, Blue Ridge Cable is the primary internet service broadband provider in Carbon County. You do have Windstream, you have Atlantic, one has changed to Breeze Line. Of course, you know, if you're doing a cellular digital, right, you have AT&T, Verizon, but you also do have some satellite options that are also available. But again, we want to take a holistic look at the state of broadband in the county. Act 96 was signed by Governor Wolf, approved by both the Pennsylvania House and Senate. Heffley, Knowles, Udicek, yes, yes, yes. So what Act 96 has done, it has created a broadband authority, the Pennsylvania Broadband Authority, and their responsibility is to synchronize and coordinate the effort in regards to broadband enhancement deployment in Pennsylvania. In December, Pennsylvania received $100 million based out of the infrastructure bill that was passed but in the federal government, the House and Senate. So we have a $100 million pot with the potential for another $400 million. So the Pennsylvania Broadband Deployment Authority, they're going to be responsible for running the grant program for that. In Act 96, which really stood up this organization, has indicated, so what is unserved and underserved, right? Very important, because this money can only be for unserved and underserved. Unserved, if you do not have accessibility to download speed, if you have less than 25 megabits per second download, less than 3 megabits per second upload, or latency that doesn't allow the use of real-time applications. So I'm sitting here writing with a pen, that's real time, right? As I'm writing, you can read what I'm doing. What you're experiencing right now with me is a lag, that's latency. I'm here talking in my home, and probably 15 or 20 seconds later, depending on your broadband connectivity, it's showing up on your computer, right? That's the latency. From the time the actual activity takes place, from the transmitter, me, to you, the receiver, when you see it. That's the latency. So, unserved, you have less than 25 download, less than 3 upload. Now, what's underserved? You don't have access to at least 100 megabytes download So a lot quicker, right? 4 times quicker. Or you don't at least have 20 megabits per second upload. And according to the study done by the Center for Rural Pennsylvania, it is a center supported by both the House and the Senate. Penn State did the study with MLab and XLab and Exactly Lab from Penn State. They've determined that of the users in Carbon County, 23% are unserved. Underserved, 67% of Carbon County. Now, I know I saw Blue Ridge has posted on my Facebook page today about, what was the exact term they used? Very negative about the Penn State study. Now, I graduated from Penn State. That's a renowned institution of research. And they're basically calling their data wrong, right? Penn State. No, Penn State, they're calling the data from Center for Rural PA inaccurate. I don't know, it seemed like a pretty good study. I don't know of anything Penn State has published that has been ridiculed as much as Blue Ridge Cable seems to be doing it on social media, all right? Again, the fact is there are gaps in broadband connectivity in Carbon County. And if you're like me and you have probably 300 megabits per second down, hey, no big problem. I'm a happy camper, right? And I'm fortunate and blessed that I can afford that, right? But what about the person out there up on the northern tier, maybe edges of Lansford, Summit Hill, White Bear, wherever, out Mahoning Township, East Penn, where you don't have access? There's not fiber, there's not broadband. And hey, I understand it's expensive to run it out there. But nonetheless, we have an opportunity to do a study. And this study being done by Design 9 is the keystone, right? Pennsylvania is a keystone, the keystone state is the keystone for accessing grant money so we can ensure that providers can get the service to those and underserved residents so that the kids can do their homework. So your grandmother and grandfather can do telemedicine, don't necessarily have to go to the hospital, so that you can run an Etsy business online and have a market, not only in Carbon County, but throughout the state, throughout the nation, throughout the world, right? That's what the study is going to help us have the opportunity to be able to do better. And we want that accessibility for all residents. So again, I would tell you, get on C4 Commissioner or just Google Act 96 of 2021. Go to the source, Center for Rural PA, read their study, the one that now Blue Ridge Cable is throwing disparaging comments at. Again, I didn't get to read it. I just saw that pop up a little bit ago. I will tell you also, when you do the survey online, do leave written comments. Right here are over 500 written comments on the survey of probably the first 1,000 surveys. So about every other person is leaving comments, and read through them. I actually did a word cloud. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the word cloud. A word cloud is you take the entire text, you put it in a program, and it highlights by showing size based upon the frequency of a recurring word. So let's say the word superior showed up in this document 100 times, and the word poor as in poor performance, showed up 10 times. So the word cloud, you'd see this giant superior, and you'd see this minuscule poor. And any other words that appeared in that text, again, would be sized according to their frequency in the document. But I just went through myself and started highlighting some of the repeating words. So it is my expectation that, at some point we'll be releasing all the comments, just like the survey results will be released, just like the entire study will be released. All the public comments, which are anonymous, and they will be rescrubbed before release, are also released. So the service providers in Carbon County can have a sense of, kind of the JD Power equivalent of how they are doing based upon public input. So again, that's the broadband study. It probably has about 2.5, 3 months. I expect we'll probably see a draft here. In about 4 or 5 weeks, we'll see the first draft. But we do have a lot of work to still do. And part of that is going to be another series of town hall meetings. Design 9 will be hosting one with the school districts, all 6 of them that serve Carbon County. Understand Hazelton also serves students of Carbon County. 23 March from 9 to 10 p.m. So I would ask that you please reach out to your school board and your school staff and ensure that they are going to participate on 23 March from 9 to 10. I sent out all the invites yesterday to the school districts, superintendents, and those who have IT departments. Insist they participate to tell us the strength, the weaknesses in the connectivity plans that they have. They have more than enough accessibility to the speed they need at the cost they can afford. Are their students able to teleeducate, right? Distant learn? Or what are the problems they're seeing? Help feed the final product of the study. Then on 25 March from 1:30 to 2:30, Design 9 with the Board of Commissioners will host a town hall with the hospital networks, the primary ones that serve Carbon County, St. Luke's, LVHN, and Geisinger. All 3 of them have been invited to participate. We'll also be doing the internet service providers, Blue Ridge, Atlantic, Windstream, Verizon, AT&T, SpaceX, Frontier, all of those. Again, inviting them. But if they can't force them to participate, but again, we all benefit if public, private, nonprofit, businesses all participate in this study and are forthright with information. We got about 5 minutes. I know I'm running a couple minutes long, and I apologize for that. Also, we're going to host a town hall meeting for the libraries, right? Those are really anchor institutions in which, as long as they have great service, you can provide service, right? Broadband-based services, internet-based services to a large population. The Dimmock Library, Lehighton Library, Palmerton, Weatherly, Panther Valley, the Dimmock's branch out in Penn Kidder Township, right? Penn Forest Township, right? Those are anchor institutions. Our senior centers, anchor institutions. Another anchor institution are our hospitals, right? A place where if you get in good fiber, good speed, good connectivity, all weather capability, because anecdotally, when the weather's poor, the rain, the broadband actually seems to slow to almost nothing. It's just crazy. Now what I keep hearing is there's no actual cause and effect there, but son of a gun, it sure seems it does it. So again, we're going to have these series of town hall meetings with Design 9 to further bring in this information. The other thing is, I know there's some concerns about the franchise agreement. I think Jim Thorpe's about $5.87, if I recall my bill. I did a right to know for the majority of the boroughs, the larger boroughs franchise agreements. I'm going to make those available, obviously, to Design 9, who's doing our study, to look at that, to see if that has any impact. I'm also, I did that as a right to know, so I'll go ahead and provide that to the public also as soon as I get those. Palmerton and Lehighton have already responded. Nespahoning sent me simply the resolution. I said, I don't want your resolution. What I actually need, and please help me, I want to see the franchise agreement. Also doing, waiting on about 4 others, Summit Hill, Lansford, etc. So hope to have all those franchise agreement and make those publicly available. Hi, Justin, tuning in late. I mentioned the 911 data hub, a great collaboration with Justin and Gary on putting that together. Matt, good to see you tuning in. Also, I see Gary's also on board. So this is Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I was just finishing up on the broadband study. Go to carboncounty.com if you haven't already. Fill out that 24-question survey. If you own a business, when you get into work tomorrow, go ahead and do the business survey. Collection of information supposed to end tomorrow, the 18th. I expect we'll keep that portal open for the surveys, through the weekend into sometime early next week, maybe as late as Monday. So go ahead and do that. This is Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to cut it off here. I'm running about 8 or 9 minutes long, it seems, 6 minutes long. So I apologize to all of you. For those who've been with me the entire hour, thank you. For those who've just been here for a couple minutes, thank you. If you want to go through this hour or rehash of notable newsworthy items impacting Carbon County residents, feel free to do so. Again, tonight I'll go through some of the comments, or all the comments I suspect to get through them tonight. I will respond to them as necessary, but importantly, while I don't have a problem putting them online, sometimes it's just easier for you to give me a call and we can talk about it. With the exception of 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., 570-503-6780. Feel free to give me a call, 570-503-6780. Or during the day, you can also, in lieu of calling direct to my cell phone, you can call the office down at the county, 570-325-3611. Or lastly, C. Lukasevich at carboncounty.net. C. Lukasevich at carboncounty.net, or c4commissioner@gmail.com. You have a multitude of ways to get in contact with me. Pick up the phone, type out an email, do your broadband survey for me to help ensure we have a great study that's going to be usable with viable courses of action that we can consider as a Board of Commissioners. Thank you so much. I'm going to cut it off here. I appreciate you joining me. See you probably, I think the next one will be in May. Looking for a guest co-host because Maggie won't be available. So we'll see who we can find who's interested in a little bit of back and forth banter as it comes to carbon matters. So have a wonderful evening again. Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich, thanking you for joining me this evening.